Welcome to Year 8 Geography. This is Lesson 7 in our unit on tourism, and this lesson we're going to be learning about sports tourism. Let's take a look at our learning objectives for our lesson today. Firstly, to define sports tourism, to examine sources related to sports tourism, and to interpret maps, charts, and diagrams to gather data about sports tourism. Before we begin our lesson today, let's do a quick starter activity. Here are 6 pictures. Tick the pictures that you think show cultural tourism destinations or activities. So in picture A, you can see it's a photograph of a beach, the famous beach in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. We've got some women dressed in traditional Asian style clothing, some sort of festival with a gate, Asian style gate or temple gate in the background. Picture C looks like some kind of market with lots of gold and clothing. Picture D, we've got some people having fun at a casino. Picture E, we've got some people, looks like doing some kind of cooking class. And picture F, a young woman eating what looks like a kind of insect, fried insect maybe. Okay, so write down the letters A to F in your notebook, please, and tick or circle which letter shows a cultural tourism destination or activity. So take a moment to pause the video now while you do this activity in your notebook, and when you're ready to check the answers, restart the video. Welcome back. Here are the answers to our starter activity. So you can see there I've got 4 purple ticks next to 4 cultural tourism destinations or activities. So picture B showing women dressed in traditional clothing or costume, some kind of Asian festival. So that's definitely a cultural activity. Picture C is a souk, traditional Arabian marketplace. So that's definitely a cultural activity, visiting a souk to go shopping. E, we've got some people doing an Asian food cooking class. Perhaps they're on holiday or at a resort, for example. So that's a cultural activity. And picture F, we've got a young woman eating fried insect, definitely a local sort of delicacy, and that could be considered a cultural activity as well. So let's get into the main part of our lesson today, which is all about sports tourism. Sports tourism involves people travelling to view or participate in a sporting event. Can you think of some recent global sporting events? You might like to pause the video now and write down some ideas, or maybe take a look at the pictures that you can see on the screen there. They might help you to think of some recent sporting events that you might have seen on television, or even ones that you've been to yourself. So take a moment to pause the video now and write down some ideas. When you're ready to check the answers, restart the video. Welcome back. Here are some ideas. Some examples of sports tourism include number 1, the Soccer World Cup in Qatar, held last year in 2022. Number 2, the Olympics, held in Tokyo in 2021. And number 3, the Monaco Grand Prix, which was held in 2021. So how are tourism and sport connected? Governments spend millions of dollars to attract people to sporting events such as the Olympics, cricket and soccer World Cups, motor racing, etc. For example, Brisbane, Australia is the host city for the 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games. The estimated cost of hosting the Games in today's money is 5 billion Australian dollars. So what are the benefits of sports tourism? Major events like the Olympics trigger mass expenditure on infrastructure and building projects. For example, construction of new stadiums, expansion and upgrades of transport networks, improvements to airport facilities, and cleanups in readiness for the arrival of tourists. For example, Brisbane will rebuild the Gabba Sports Stadium at a cost of around $2.5 billion. And the Gabba is going to be the main stadium where a lot of the athletics events take place, as well as the opening and closing ceremonies for the Olympic Games. Let's delve into the cost of hosting the Olympics in more detail. Study the graphic and answer the questions. 1. What was the most expensive Olympics ever? 2. Who hosted it? 3. What was the cheapest Olympics? 4. Who hosted it? And 5. Were the cheapest and most expensive games the Winter or Summer Olympics? So let's take a look at the infographic now. So the infographic shows the estimated cost of hosting the Olympic Games. Now, the blue columns represent the Winter Olympics and the yellow columns represent the Summer Olympics. So the top 6 most expensive Olympics have been are shown at the top of the table or the infographic there, and the top 6 most expensive Winter Olympics are shown along the bottom. So take a moment to pause the video now and answer those 5 questions in your notebook. When you're ready to check the answers, restart the video. Welcome back. Here are the answers to our infographic about the cost of hosting the Olympic Games. 1. What was the most expensive Olympics ever? This was the Sochi Olympics 2014 at a cost of $59.7 billion. And the Sochi Olympic Games in 2014 were a Winter Olympics in Russia. So question 2, who hosted it? Was Russia. 3, what was the cheapest Olympics? That was Salt Lake in 2002 down here, also a Winter Olympics at a cost of 2.9 billion. Who hosted it? The USA, so Salt Lake City is in the United States. And 5, were the cheapest and most expensive games Winter or Summer Olympics? So the Winter Games were generally the cheapest and the Summer Olympics are generally the most expensive. So what are the pros and cons of big sporting events like the Olympics? Does the money spent on hosting the Olympics bring in more tourists? Generally, hosting a one-off world event does not meet the expected financial rewards. For example, 3 million tourists visited the UK in 2012 during the Olympics in London, but this was 5% less than in the previous year. Copy the following table into your book. Can you add any other pros or cons? So let's look at the pros of the Olympics. Well, countries that host the Olympics have to build new infrastructure and sporting facilities, and these can then be used into the future to hold future sporting and cultural events. Tourist spending increases because of all the tourists that are visiting for the Olympics. There is also increased intercultural interaction and understanding. Many people from different countries coming to one place, so getting to know people from other countries. The land and housing values do increase close to new venues. However, the cons or the negatives of hosting the Olympics are that there is a huge cost to do so. People have been displaced, for example, in Beijing, when they built new infrastructure and stadiums, people who lived there had to move somewhere else because they were in the way of the new stadium. Many locals actually leave during the Olympics because it's just too busy. They don't like being around all those visitors and all those people. Some sports facilities remain underused, so they don't actually keep using many of the facilities or use them as much as they would have during the Olympics. So the cost of building them, they don't really get any monetary reward for doing so. And it can take a long time for a country or a city to recoup or regather the cost for hosting the Olympics in the first place. But what about other sports events? In Australia and other countries around the world, seasonal sports events gather huge crowds. For example, NRL and AFL football games, soccer matches, tennis tournaments, motor racing, surfing championships, and cricket matches are hugely popular. Generally, these regular events are good for the economy. They attract large numbers of tourists who stay in local accommodation and eat at local restaurants. These events even attract local, interstate, and international tourists, some of whom follow their favourite team around the world. Okay, so we're going to finish our lesson now with a plenary or homework activity. I'd like you to research one of the following sporting events: the Soccer World Cup, the Rugby World Cup, the Ashes, which is a cricket tournament, or the Commonwealth Games. Copy the table below and fill it in as you research one of those sporting events above. So I'd like you to find the date of the most recent event, where it was held, the number of tickets sold or the number of visitors which attended the event, the estimated revenue, so how much money did they make from hosting the event, and what were the costs versus benefits? Did it cost more to host the event than the country or the city made on selling tickets to the event? So, what were the costs versus benefits facts? And that's an activity that you can do for homework or just as an extra study activity after this lesson. So if you need to copy this table down, you're welcome to pause the video now and just quickly copy that into your books. Otherwise, continue on to the end of the lesson. So that brings us to the end of the last lesson, lesson 7 in our tourism unit. I hope you've enjoyed learning all about tourism, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to visit our website voyagerschool.com.au for more valuable courses in more subjects for high school students. See you next time.